Tarsh. I'm so excited to have you here talking about your clothing line.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So first, and I forgot to mention this, but I always ask people how you got into cycling. So we'll start there and then we're going to just dive into the clothing line.
Okay, so I got into cycling by default because the company I worked for back in 2007, like 2006-7, became a sponsor of the corporate triathlon series in Australia. And so what they did was they came out to all of the staff and they were like, we've just sponsored this corporate triathlon series. We're looking for staff to take part. We'll give you all the training and we'll put you in all the gear, but we just want people to represent the company. And me, I'm a yes woman. I'm like, yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I put my hand up, and then I asked one of my staff, because I was managing a investments team. I asked one of my staff, I'm like, what is a triathlon? And they're like, didn't you just say yes to this? And I'm like, yeah, but what is it? And they said, well, you've got to swim, bike, and run. And I went, I don't know how to do any of those. I don't even own a bike, let alone goggles. And I don't have anything. I literally don't have anything. So that was my how I got into, well, triathlon and cycling and running and swimming, because prior to that, I just used to go to the gym and get ripped. Like, I didn't really care about all this cardio nonsense. No. But God, how things have changed, hey?
Yeah. So did you get yourself a coach or did you just
back then the company that I worked for supplied us with everything. So I got taught how to swim.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, I got taught how to swim in a pool. Then we got taught how to swim out in, like, for a race in the bay in the ocean. Then we got taught how to ride a bike. So that's when I learned also how to clip in and clip out. Like, this was like a 12-week training thing. I bought a secondhand bike. I bought a wetsuit, like all of these things. And that was back in 2007. And then it wasn't until 2008 that I left Australia and came over to the UK.
Oh my God. Well, I guess that's kind of cool that your company actually did that, because I guess they're like, well, if I'm going to have staff represent, they better be representing properly and actually don't.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a great investment. Also something great for you. So just before we dive in, move on to the UK, how many of the staff decided and got into this?
I think we had a couple, maybe just over 100 staff members took part. Yeah, because and I think it was a great place for me, because I got to meet people in the business that I hadn't met before, and I'm still friends with these people like 14 years later. So yeah,
did a lot of them embrace the triathlon spirit like you did?
Yeah. A lot of them, strangely enough, a lot of them were already runners or cyclists. It's just, it wasn't something that it was never something in my world, because my friends, we just used to party, like go to the gym, walk around looking really hot in our like muscles, and then go party. There was none of this waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go for a swim.
You have to swim in the morning?
Yeah. I'm like, so my entire lifestyle changed. Well, it started the change back then.
So
yeah.
So how long? So you said it was 14 years ago?
Yeah, so I started back in 2007 with like a simple sprint race, which, you know, was the biggest thing in my world. I'm like, oh my God, how do people do this? This is like mega. This is mega. And then in 2008, I left Australia. I packed my bike and brought it with me. And I moved to the UK, but it wasn't until 2010 in the UK that once I started living in Richmond and I found a triathlon club, that I actually then started back in, like, figuring it all out again in the sport.
What prompted the move? Like, I know it said like you wanted
So
to see the
the
UK.
Yeah, so I left Australia because I hadn't gone to high school and because I hadn't finished university. The only way to come to the UK to work was to get a working holiday visa. So I got a working holiday visa in 2008, and I had to get to the UK before I turned 31. So I literally landed a week before I turned 31 in the in the UK, but I had this 2-year working holiday visa, which didn't activate until I landed in the country. So yeah, and then that was it. That mate, the rest is history. Like I don't even know
Just
how I.
left your corporate job and you moved over to the UK, and did you go to a job?
No, so the pizza, the working the full
Oh,
time and the pizza delivery and the working
right.
working in the butcher was to fund, like, just to get as much money as possible to come over. Like I saved 40,000 Australian dollars. Like I saved a lot of money. But when
Wow.
I came to the UK, I was only able to get 32p for every dollar. Like it was
Oh,
ridiculous. So
wow.
all that
That's
money
like
I saved was terrible. And
that's
then I was
like
like,
Canadians going to the UK.
oh my God, I thought I was really rich. And then I was like mega poor. I
Yeah,
was
like
really poor.
chunk it in half and not even that. You're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. So I was really fortunate, had a friend that I could stay with for a few months. At one point, I nearly ran out of money and I contacted my best friend back at home and I said, I think I'm going to have to come back because I'm overqualified to work or I don't have UK experience, so nobody wants to hire me. And she's like, you are not coming home. I'm going to send you some money. And then the following week, I got a contract job, so I was fine.
Oh,
But
wow, that worked out.
yeah, I think the universe was really looking after me, actually.
Yeah, send you some good vibes. So now that so you got to stay in the UK, so how are you able to extend it? Is it because
Yeah,
of
so
that job?
no. So I set up my own consultancy firm, and I basically contracted out to clients because I'm like a lead business analyst. So I work on projects in private banking, investment banking, all that kind of banking. And I got sponsored for 5 years. And once I was sponsored for 5 years, after that time had passed, I was then eligible for my right to remain. So now I have a right to remain here in the UK. And yeah, I bought a house. And yeah, now I'm just like, I live here, live here, live here. I'm invested.
Ace. Wow. Okay, so now you're full on into Ironman. So I
Yeah,
assume that passion just like
grew.
yeah, followed you over to the UK, and you're in there, you found your triathlon club, you're doing some Ironman, or when did you progress to Ironmans? Or are you one
So
of
I
those ones that
started.
just jumped right in and
No,
said,
no. I wanted to, so I'm all about respecting the distance and respecting the process and the journey. So I just wanted to understand like how you would go through. So I started off again at sprint, then I went to an Olympic distance, and then I moved over to the middle distance, and then I went, well, the next step. I was at a friend's house that as part of my Thames Turbo Tri Club. We had several of our athletes in Kona. And so what we did was we would have a Kona party here. And they're like, oh, you've got to come to the Kona party and watch this iconic race. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I go, we have this great time. We're watching this race. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, these people are
"Sign me up."
mad. But I'm like, oh my God, these people are crazy. Like, why would you want to do this to yourself? Gosh. And then it wasn't until like the end of 2013 that I'm like, well, I've done all the distances now except this one. So I think I read Chris McCormick's book on my way home to Australia. So I was going home for Christmas, I was listening to his book, and he was talking about his journey in Kona and all that jazz in the book. And I'm like, he's a fellow Aussie. Again, I didn't really know who he was. I'm like, fellow Aussie, I'm gonna give this Ironman a go. So yeah, it wasn't until I came back home to Australia, in 2013. So it was end of 2012. So 2013 beginning of the year, I came back home, spoke to one of the coaches in the club, and said, oh, I want to have a go at this Ironman. And that was it.